Welcome to Smart Route, the podcast by CallTrackingMetrics, where you'll hear stories from businesses at the intersection of marketing, customer experience, and sales. We're sitting down with business leaders and industry experts to dive deep into the path they took to find success. Here's your host, Courtney Tyson.
Well, hello, and welcome to episode 8 of Smart Route. I'm your host, Courtney Tyson. Thank you for listening in. During this episode, we're going to be learning more about digital growth in the B2B space from expert Marc Waldeck. Thanks for being here, Marc.
Oh, Courtney, it's a pleasure to join you today.
Great. Before we get started, I'm going to share a little bit more about you with our audience. They have a good understanding as to why we invited you as our guest today, specifically for this topic. So Marc is the founder and chief results officer of Brave New Markets, a digital growth company that partners with private equity firms and their B2B portfolio companies to increase enterprise value. He has more than 20 years of digital experience. He's a pioneer in harnessing the reach and scalability of customer-facing technology to unleash potential for rapid growth. He is a recognized thought leader, as well as a respected speaker on topics such as digital growth, business transformation, and customer success. Did I miss anything important, Marc?
No, that sounds great.
All
Makes
right,
me sound really good.
Well, you are very accomplished, and obviously have some really great expertise that we're looking forward to, learning more about today, specifically around digital growth and what all of that means. But before we dive in, let's kind of talk about your business concept. So I find it to be very interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more about where the idea for Brave New Markets came from and how everything kind of came about?
Sure. I spent the first years of my career in sales and marketing management roles in mid to large corporations, which was a great learning ground. But getting on into my career, I participated in a global branding project for a change management consulting firm that provided me a great understanding how consulting firms work. And when that completed, I was ready to start working for myself and help multiple companies at the same time instead of just one, as working for them. So in 1999, I launched Brave New Markets with the idea of providing marketing strategy and services that were actually focused on results. So as I mentioned, I've been in a number of organizations, and up until that point, I'd been involved with marketing companies, and hired them many
Mhm.
times. But actually, they just seemed to pay lip service to results, and they were more focused on just moving from campaign to campaign, and not much about assessing the success of those campaigns, but just wanting to sell the next one. So
Okay.
that was kind of my motivation to start Brave New Markets and where to start helping our clients. We were just getting started in the and getting traction with the organization when the dot-com bubble bust occurred back in 2000. But nevertheless, we were hyper focused on results and quickly determined client ROI was best from all of our digital efforts and digital capabilities. And that's what early on started steering the Brave New Markets ship to digital.
Interesting. I love that, you were so focused on results from the start, whereas I think you're right. Um, you know, 20 years ago, maybe it was a little bit different. Like you said, it was all, word of mouth, whether or not you were having success. But now it's all about having that information and the results. Um, you had mentioned that, your target market is private equity backed B2B companies. Um, what kind of led you to the decision to build Brave New Markets around this market?
Actuality, our customers and our capabilities led us in that direction ultimately. And one caveat. Uh, I was fortunate early enough in my career to learn there is no better organization to be involved in than a rapidly growing business. Dynamic growth is such a powerful influence for creativity, positivity, that building that can-do attitude throughout an organization. I find it addictive in a good way, of being associated with that and being challenged every day to keep up with growth that you personally play a role in.
Hmm.
With that said, about 3 years ago, we actually did a very deep 6-month review of Brave New Markets growth capabilities and what we wanted to do. Kind of a look back at everything we had done and where we were and where we were going. That involved our capabilities, and we had already shed a tremendous number of traditional marketing services that we were no longer doing with the focus on digital. We looked at all of our client profiles throughout the years of where we had worked and where we had gained success, and looked at market trajectories. And that internal exercise was great at illuminating where our sweet spot is. And firstly, that's private equity. And we found, and we gained through experience, that leadership of private equity backed companies, especially those with recent PE investments, they're highly motivated and they have the resources to invest and focus on growth and value creation. Uh, Today, uh, value creation is needed beyond traditional financial tactics in private equity backed companies. And digital growth and transformations driving superior value creates top line revenue growth at lower cost. And so it's very interested both the private equity companies and their portfolio companies both. And so that motivation keeps things moving, making the correct decisions, staying committed to decisions, because what we do is pretty transformational. Secondly, we like B2B companies. They're traditionally kind of underserved in customer-facing digital. They've been involved in digital for years, robotics, logistics, warehouse management, et cetera, but not on the customer-facing side. And so there's great opportunity there in most organizations for the face-to-face, for the real customer experience to be digital. And so we focus on customer-facing digital, and then usually integrate with the systems that they have existing for customer information and exchange and things like that. I add that every company is proud of its capabilities and swears it's different than everything else, but most companies to clients and customers appear to do the same thing in the same way in most industries. We're all human, and we think of the average. If you think of the average B2B buyer, though, the average B2B buyer is faced with a checklist every day of things they have to accomplish. What happens if you easily attract them, give them a path of least resistance to checking off that line on a checklist? What happens? They keep coming back because they want to keep checking off that item as easy as possible. I'm oversimplifying, but the path of least resistance includes capturing their attention, enabling them to quickly and perfectly find the product or service they're looking for, easily place an order, timely communications, and then an easy way to tap or click to repeat that experience. And we find the areas for best growth, easy growth, and most return on investment to be business to business organizations.
Interesting. That's great. It's funny. I've worked with a handful of private equity firms and their portfolio companies in my career. Obviously, not to the extent that you have, but um, it- you're. I've learned that too. They're very motivated. They say they're going to do something, and they do it. Right. They get it done. And so I can see, you're obviously someone who's the same way. So it aligns perfectly. um, your website and your mantra is very focused on B2B, businesses, and we kind of learned why you have such a passion for working in that sector, right? Um, Now, being that your mantra and your website talks a lot about digital growth versus marketing, I was wondering if you can help us and our audience to better understand a little bit more about what that means. What is digital growth? What is marketing in your mind? How do they differ? How are they the same? Um,
It's an attention getter, isn't it?
yes, because it's a concept, right? So, like,
Well,
what is the concept?
right, I tell clients and groups that look, stop marketing and start growing. And I do realize that it's an attention getter, but if you look back where I started, and I talked about other companies being more focused on campaigns or just traditional marketing, whatever. And you do marketing for the sense of marketing. Where does it really add up? Quite frankly, most executives deep down inside, they feel like they're throwing money down a hole, and they never really know what tangible results they get. And the other thing I witnessed for years is a lot of marketing decisions are actually based on ego. They make my company and they make me look good. But again, they're not tied to results. And at the end, it kind of leaves a bad taste in executives, for the money that they've invested in it. Today, we feel, especially in B2B, I'm not talking about consumer now, that's completely different. But in B2B, traditional marketing activities can have little to no effect on the bottom line. That even includes things for traditional branding. Not that there isn't a role internally within a company for branding, but we find where things have gone are really, you're judged on customer experience. You're no longer telling a customer how to think about you, you're showing them how to think about you. And it means everything these days. And digital, quite frankly, is the most efficient method for creating outstanding customer experience. It's just the most efficient way to go about it. Now, arguably, there are some elements of digital that look like marketing. I get that. But leaders of companies, especially B2B companies, should really stop thinking about marketing and be laser focused on only those activities that contribute directly to growth. And right now, that's digital customer experience.
So it all comes down to kind of like the digital footprint, everything from website presence to maybe other types of digital activities, such as maybe like digital advertising or, your business profile on Google. So how all of that pieces together and how that contributes to, money, right? And revenue. And so that all kind of like encompasses digital growth, right?
Exactly. If you look at every demographic these days in B2B, and I'm a boomer myself, but I look across, down through, millennial demographics that are into buying situations, purchasing situations in B2B now. Hey, no one really wants to talk to you anymore. And when you really think about it, your customers don't want to talk to you. They at least don't want to initiate things that way. There's a great place for that. And there's a great way to handle that. But at first, you've got an opportunity to capture their attention digitally, to grab them, get them involved in your organization. And then after that, there's a great way to build up a conversation with the client. They're more likely to spend time on the phone with you and such.
Gotcha. Um, so we talked about digital growth as a strategy. What are the components of a digital growth strategy? I think we
Well,
talked about a couple of them, like the website, right? But I know there's a lot more beyond that.
there is, and they're not all digital. This is
Okay.
digital growth strategy. Having that digital customer facing capability is really about the entire customer experience. And so, like I say, it's very transformational. And quite frankly, that's why we report directly to the C-suite, because as time goes on, digital growth involves every person and department in an organization. You'd see us involved in everything from long-term business strategy, strategic value creation, price strategies, sales transformation, finance, logistics, customer insights, and everything else. Because if I do want to have a digital relationship with your company, I should be able to do everything relative to that relationship. Look up an order, see what I've been buying, and that's going to go see where my order is. Those sorts of things. Those are going to involve every part of an organization. So you tend to, when we talk about digital growth, we tend to think about attracting maybe through search marketing, having a very good digital presence, being able to answer emails and respond quickly to inquiries, and that's all part of it. But don't lose track of that. The entire experience will involve everything that an organization does.
I love the term you use, digital relationship. I think that's great. Having a strong digital relationship leads to more revenue, right? So having
Absolutely.
kind of having a more familiar relationship with that customer. It's interesting. I really like that term. Um, so let's talk about. I think you talked about how all businesses obviously would benefit from having a digital growth strategy. But are there types of businesses you think that would benefit more than others?
As far as realizing the benefits to the bottom line, if you will, which customer experience and customer relationships should go directly to the bottom line. In the B2B realm, the more your business relies on transactions and repeatable transactions, one that people can accomplish digitally, as opposed to professional services like medical architects and things like that. The more repeatable the transaction, the more your business relies on a high level of transactions and repeatable transactions, the more digital is going to deliver to the bottom line, because it gives you the ability to do far more transactions to a greater audience. At the same time, it provides a lower cost to serve, and so you're doing more business, less cost, and able to expand your reach and your share of wallet much easier.
Okay. So any business in which a transaction could be completed easily, but not need a whole lot of maybe, I guess, like you said, professional services. So a lot of folks from that organization being involved and having to kind of tailor an order to the customer. It would be a
Right.
little bit more tougher in that scenario.
Right. Let's admit it. If you're an architect, you need to spend a long time for one transaction to deliver a very complex product.
Sure.
Actually, the less complicated, more repeatable the transaction, it could be anything from rental to selling a business product, and or a business service or something that needs to be repeated that type of business is going to realize more to the bottom line faster.
You had talked too about, customer acquisition and retention and how that all kind of plays into a digital growth strategy. Can you talk us through how B2B companies can get started with these two things digitally?
Absolutely. First off, start at the top of the organization. This takes a senior level at the very top of the organization commitment for this to succeed. Because as I said earlier, you're going to touch every part of the business ultimately in your quest to provide a very good digital relationship with a customer. And so it takes that top of the organization commitment. Also, don't try to do everything at once. That is ripe for failure. This is a process, and you're going to pick, as in any priority making, you're going to pick to do the things that make the best impact the fastest, and you're going to prioritize other things down the road that you need to get at. You need to be agile, plan small incremental steps for digital growth. And that is customer acquisition and retention. What small things can you do, from your first steps into really search marketing, to having a correct digital presence, to the services that you and capabilities that you offer online, and those types of things. I mean, many times we have a digital growth plan that stretches out 3 years for a client, and we know from experience that that's about the right amount of time to get it right. Otherwise, because along the way you're going to learn things that you hadn't anticipated about your customer and prospect base, and you need to integrate those into your plan to make the most of it. But so that's initially what you have to do for customer acquisition. The number one thing I tell clients and groups is stop being satisfied with your B2B company website. Uh, and if you call it a website, I challenge you to stop calling it that. It's probably nothing more than an electronic brochure. Earlier I talked about the B2B customer, and you may be just a line on their checklist they need to accomplish. And so a B2B website should really be focused on customers doing business. Think of it as a web application. as opposed to just trying to have an electronic brochure, something that allows my customers to accomplish their business. Can I give you an example? Southwest Airlines. Love those folks. I mean, they're
Mhm.
legendary.
Yes.
I mean, they've got a great business model. You know, they've got a wonderful story. They have 700 planes. They fly to so many destinations. Their employees are legendary. Their founder, they have stories all around. And, you know, if you go to their website or their web application, that is, you can find out about those things if you dig far enough. But what's the first thing that hits you in the face? This big yellow form that says, "Where do you want to go?"
That's
You
right.
don't, right? You don't need to know. You don't need to know. They don't need to talk you into going somewhere. They don't need to tell you about the destination or their beautiful gates at that airport. No, where do you want to go? And I challenge business leaders to think about that, you know, for their business. You know, where are they investing time and where are they giving their customers that ease of accessibility to their products and services? You know, once you
Yeah.
got them there, help them get what they need.
Yeah, there's no, I think, greater frustration as being a buyer and not being able to access, your account and then your orders, right? And then what do I do if I have to talk to someone about an order I placed? Like, put
Right.
all of those things in front of me. It shouldn't be this maze that I have to go through. I think that's such a great analogy using Southwest, because I mean I'm a big follower of Southwest. I use them all the time. But yeah, I think everything you said makes so much sense. So just to recap, you said start at the top, make sure you get all the C-suite on board with the strategy. But with that strategy, it's not a sprint; it's a marathon. Um, you know, do it slowly. Take components that you know are going to have the biggest impact, get those done, and it will all come together, and you'll see the success of it.
Right.
Um,
And you know, lastly, for retention, we have to continually improving that customer experience and enhancing it and adding more and more to it. So, you know, that'll touch areas like making sure you get your fulfillment correctly, great communications, personalization, possibly subscription, so I don't have to come back and check that off every time I need something done, and then curated offerings also means so much more in today's market plan. And that's a great way to put with all this, you're going to be building a nice data warehouse. And in the future, you're going to be able to anticipate customer needs before they know they need it, just by having the right people looking at that information.
you had talked a lot about all the different things that you do for your clients specifically. I wanted to ask too about, what tools are you and your team using to help your customers grow?
Well, we use a we use a wide variety of tools. Most of them cloud based for and we to plug in and serve our customer needs. First off, we always set up a digital platform that serves as a hub for bringing everything together. Because we're usually dealing with legacy enterprise systems of some type that need to be integrated and brought forward customer facing that information. Obviously, comprehensive analytics packages, data warehousing to make sure that everything that's done is captured. Saving data is cheap these days. There's no reason not to do it. And have that available for analytics in the future. We have multiple monitoring systems to monitor every part of a digital engagement and a digital experience, and then other tools to help people do things like CallTrackingMetrics. I mean, that's a great example of attribution for tracking and being able to see what efforts are bringing people in, what are making them contact, and then finally what's ending up on the bottom line. So any applications, any tools that we bring in have to aid tracking all these activities to the bottom line of a business. So we can either prove it works or prove it doesn't work. And also, I'll say, that's a lot of digital things. And one of the interesting things on CallTrackingMetrics that we learned early on in working with the platform is that our customers also get a tremendous training advantage out of call recording. I don't. It's enormous what you can learn about one, how your people deal with a phone interaction, and are they getting the job done? And then the customer insights that come out of it. Customers will tell you exactly what they want and how they want to buy it, and how easy it is to sell them if you really listen to it. And so we've gained tremendous insights out of that. And it's those types of tools that come together to build that customer relationship, digital customer relationship, and that experience that is so important today.
Well, thanks, Mark. I'm glad you kind of see that underlying value in call tracking metrics in the call recordings. I think that's a wonderful point. But I think something important too you said was that, you have to make sure all the tools you're using are contributing to the data analytics that you're, using to share with your customers, and how to kind of prove, hey, we are helping you to grow, and this is how. I think that's really important because we can get really excited about all the fun tools out there nowadays. So this was great, Mark. Was there anything that you wanted to plug before we ended today's conversation?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if it's a plug. It's just that there is. I still get energized coming in every day because there's so many exciting things happening, and I love the pace of change in industry these days. Technology has always been a fun thing with me since I was a kid, and every day it feels like I'm a kid in a candy store. As far as the tools that we get to use, but also it's just exciting what's going on in the marketplace these days. And as I mentioned earlier, being able to be involved with fast growing companies, rapidly growing companies, and companies that are energized and powered by growth is just a tremendous place to be. And I'm having a great time. And I encourage others to explore it also. There's nothing more drab than going into a business that's treading water. That's where you see attitude slip and things like that. The energy of growth is contagious, and everyone should find a way to make that growth happen.
And what's so cool about what you do is that you're a part of so many different companies' growth, right? I mean, that's just awesome to think you're not just contributing to, one company on a daily basis. It's multiple, and that's really cool too, and just exciting
Right.
in general.
And Courtney, you hit on it. At the end of the day, companies are made up of people, and one, having a fun place to go work. If it's fun, it's not really work. That's a great thing. And then you're helping. Growth helps everyone's lives that is involved with these companies, and there can't be a better feeling in the world than to see that success spread around an organization. I love it.
I love that too. And that must be why you love call tracking metrics so much, because we're just so rapidly growing as well. So
I have a hard time keeping up with all the capabilities you keep adding, but we're trying.
yes, yes, we've got a lot going on. So thank you, Mark. We appreciate that. And just thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to teach us more about digital growth in the B2B space, and what that means and what a strategy looks like. I know I certainly learned a lot, and I know our listeners will too. So thank you very much, Mark.
My pleasure, Courtney.
And thanks too for being a great partner to ours. We always have fun when our clients get to be our guests. So thanks. And thank you to our listeners as well. We always appreciate your time. Stay in touch with us on social media. You can find us at Smart Route Pod on Twitter. We will talk to you soon.